start digging into this stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at success stories from this region and start your analysis of these success stories that make California work better. And by looking at things that work better, then we can better understand what are those critical factors. And those factors can provide the basis for statewide policy change. We're going to start with a brief presentation of two success stories of the region that many of you already know about. The Blueprint and the SHIP project, and they're described in your packet. And then we'll have a discussion at your table to really dig into those success stories and other success stories that you have personal experience that you may want to bring up. And then we'll also have some discussion in plenary session. So I'd like to start by introducing our presenters. Is Mike McKeever here? Hello. First, Mike McKeever from SACOG will talk about the Blueprint project, and then Bonnie Ferrero will talk about SHIP. So I'm going to ask Mike to come up first. And each person will talk for no more than 3 minutes. Just to set the context, and then you all will talk for 2 minutes.
Too many people here know me. Okay, so I think the question I'm answering is not what the Blueprint was, but why I think it experienced some success, right? 3 reasons, a minute each. Democracy, education, and leadership. The democracy was that it really initiated outside of the government. It initiated locally, but outside of SACOG. We had people from the Metro Chamber and Valley Vision and some other organizations coming to SACOG saying this is something that needs to be, something like this. They didn't know exactly what this was, but some kind of a regional vision for a common future for the area needs to be created. So it really was a bottom-up birthing situation. And then the way the project was done was a very strong commitment to citizen democracy with many, many workshops, people who did not traditionally participate. That created a lot of strength and ownership for the project. So 1 is democracy. 2 is education. There's a sort of a concept from the birthing moment of our country that the democracy really only works well when you have an informed citizenry. And so we invested heavily in good information and science and data, and past the conversation, which is like so many public topics, so often controversial, in this case about land use, based on sort of seeking the best facts and understanding rather than political posturing or soapbox speech making. And that, together with the democracy, really generated a remarkable degree of consensus and bipartisan consensus as to what the future of the region should be on the land use side. But the third thing was leadership, and I think the first 2 created the possibility for this. And it took some courage and guts to make a number of decisions through the process, including having enough courage at the outset to put what the planners call a base case future on the table, which basically said to all of the local governments and the people in the development community and the citizenry at large that where we're going now is a train wreck. The lead editorial in the Bee the day after the base case was unveiled was SACOG shows region the road to ruin. And it was a very startling picture, and it was basically a thorough indictment of a lot of what was common practice in the land use field in the region. And because it was based on good information, and because it was developed through a broad democratic process, we were able to survive what you would expect to be the blowback from that. And it became not a challenge for the project, but it became the rallying cry for the project, which was that everybody agreed we don't want that. And so the project became a quest for what we want instead, but there was universal agreement that where we were going was not going to take us any place anybody wanted to be. So Probably longer than 3 minutes, but not too bad.
Excellent. For being here today and being able to present that from the horse's mouth, as it were.
Thanks.
And now Bonnie Ferrer will talk about SHIP.
Okay, Malcolm, just don't call me a horse. So one of the greatest things for us was and we hear it quite often, is the public-private partnerships. So with SHIP, what we had to do first was identify what the problem was. And the problem was that our safety net was absolutely falling apart, and that we were seeing that there were less insured people within our region. There was also less places to see people in the healthcare arena. And people were getting sicker, and chronic illnesses were not managed, and the hospital systems were blowing up, and the county budget was being slashed. And so, knowing all that, and understanding what the problem was, we brought all the people to the table that needed to be there: the hospitals, all the different players, community health centers, and the like. And then we agreed on what were some of the ways in which we could actually improve the process and build more access in. And so with that, we supported organizations that were already doing work. We weren't creating anything. SHIP was not a new entity to take on different things. It was a convener. It was used to actually bring all the players to the table, to be transparent and collaborative, and to be very communicative about what their agendas were, and we would then support one another. One of the biggest things was to keep the egos at the door, and that was somewhat hard for people when they're trying to position themselves, but and especially in a failing economy where funds are very hard to get and to sustain, and to be transparent about that within all the 4 hospital systems as well as all the community health centers, it was quite key. The willingness to stay and continue to ask very difficult questions, and to respond to the demand of especially local government, to be willing to put together our thoughts and to give recommendations that were clear and concise on what it is that we needed for our safety net, and to have one voice. And that was really, really important. So when we went to the Board of Supervisors, we had one voice, and that was very powerful. And so they've asked us now to come back again during these budget times and with the Public Health Advisory Board kind of move forward. And I think one of the things that we have done best is we just continue to keep asking the question, what's working and what's not, and we are real with one another about that, and then we address those issues as they come about. So I think that those are the keys.